and welcome back to the show. We're talking with John Jackson, and our topic today: has the traditional BIA run its course? John, before our break, you had some great comments about some of the problems that are wrong with the BIA, and started to give us some ideas on how to change that. So, and you mentioned showing value, and I'm wondering, how do we do that? Who needs to be involved? What kind of things do we really need to provide out of the new BIA approach if we want it to really meet what we expect it to deliver?
Yep, sure. Well, again, I want to stress the fact that I don't think it's the assessment process that is flawed. I think it's the way it has been done, the questions that have been asked, the information that has been gathered, and the lack of value of the report that gets presented. So we focus on a slightly different approach called business impact management. And business impact management, in many ways, gets the same information, but we believe it gets it in a much more usable and actionable manner.
Okay.
First of all, you asked me the question about who all is involved, and I don't think there's a big difference in who's involved, Alex. You have to go to the source of the organization to get the information. So when we think of a business impact management study, we think about developing a detailed knowledge of the organization and its impacts. And the first thing that we have to understand is, how does the organization work? In other words, what happens in the organization on a day-in, day-out basis that allows it to operate so that we can understand how it can break? We need to make sure that we're ensuring command and control of the processes and systems, delivering desired outcomes regardless of the type of disruption. So again, I don't think we can just say what happens if your systems are down. We have to paint a scenario-based approach that allows people to understand what the capabilities of the organization are, and therefore take that into account when they're answering the questions about what the impacts can be. Traditionally, we've asked people to answer questions about recovery time and recovery point, and I think there's a couple of problems there that we're trying to solve. One is the average end user, the average interviewee, has no idea what recovery point is. They have no idea how the data is being backed up in their organization. So they're in no position, in my opinion, to make an assessment of recovery point. And recovery time, while it has value, needs to be looked at in the context of how processes are done in the organization. So not how a particular business unit operates, but how a business process gets accomplished, because that may very well entail multiple business units who are involved in a singular process.
So that could be things like dependencies, what comes
absolutely.
in and what goes out, right?
Yep, dependencies are a very key part that have been overlooked in the traditional business impact analysis, because it has been done at the business unit level, not at the process level. So the biggest change, in my opinion, is that we need to look at it at the process level, not the business unit silo level. Business impact management is all about a continual and actively managed process for changing the way you think about threats, risks, and impacts. It's not a periodic point-in-time effort that leaves gaps that could be critical to miss, which is another problem with traditional BIAs. They're typically done, and then you come back 6 months later or a year later, and you do another business impact analysis. Well, what happens if things change during that period? So business impact management involves understanding how the business operates, understanding how it can break, and therefore how it needs to be protected, and understanding what is critical to measure and report upon. Business impact management results in a decision framework and a database to improve decision-making in every phase of the continuity or resilience program. Importantly, is an interactive concept that seeks to not only ascribe impacts, but also understand relationships, identify resources, alternatives, and establish core strategies. Most organizations, and I'm getting off of the BIA issue for a moment, Alex.
That's okay.
Many organizations do a BIA and then go and write plans. They miss a very critical step, which is strategy development, because the plan executes to invoke the strategy. So if you don't identify the strategy that's needed for a business process in the case of an IT outage, you're really not in any position to write quality plan for that business process. So we believe that the process of doing the business impact management and building that database of information at the process level allows quality strategy development, which then feeds into much better developed plans.
Well, you mentioned something really interesting when you were talking about strategy and you identifying some other components there. And there was a time when I went through a BIA, and we did it based on the framework that the organization already had. This is what they wanted to use, so we went through it, and that's fine. And there were some pieces that when the questions came up about what do you do when some application is down or the entire end-to-end process is down, what do you do? And it turned out that they already had some contingencies and things in place already that weren't ever accounted for in previous BIAs.
Right.
And it drastically changed what their plan was, because they had done exactly that. It didn't focus on some of the things that you just brought up, the flawed process. And when they brought in all these, we have a workaround for that, and we have an existing plan that addresses this when this goes down, and these communications that they activate, and they're able to keep going.
Right.
And I just went, wow.
Yeah. No. The business impact analysis and this new way of approaching it that we call business impact management can actually be way more beneficial than the typical BIA has been, because the typical BIA simply develops a report that says, here's all of our business units, here's what the recovery times need to be based on these impacts, but it does nothing to help develop the strategy or to help develop the plan. And we find that during what we call now the business impact management process, we're actually able to not only gather information about the impacts of an outage, but we're able to begin to develop the strategy and talk to the people about the plan. Talk to them about what would you do. So we say to them, okay, we have this business process. Who all is involved in various departments in this business process. Let's get them together so that we're looking at it cross-functionally at the process level, and then let's not only understand what the impact of an outage would be, taking into account the recovery capabilities that we have. But then let's also, while we're here, talk about what would we need to do to recover it? What's the right strategy? What are the things that you would do? If this happened, what are the first 10 things that you would do? And these are the people that are going to execute the plan when they have to anyway. We might as well involve them in developing the plan in the first place. So,
yes, I find that that happens a lot. That because you have a great point of bringing people together, and because you mentioned the point about dependencies and things, I would assume that that also means bringing multiple groups together rather than the traditional building plans in silos.
Absolutely, it does. It means that once you define the process that's going to be studied, you then need to understand everybody who has input into that process, and that includes external resources. It includes suppliers. It includes IT systems. It includes facilities. It includes all of those things that can affect the ability to recover that process. And the strategy needs to be developed at the process level, and the plan needs to be developed at the process level, because that's what you're trying to recover. You're not trying to recover the entire accounting department. You're trying to recover, the general ledger. You're trying to recover payroll, and those things involve different pieces. Payroll is a perfect example because in many organizations it's handled by an external resource. So the fact that an IT outage occurs may not even impact the payroll process, because payroll may be getting done by an external organization. But if that external organization has an outage, independent of the entity that we're studying, now we have a real problem. So this, the strategy needs to address how are we going to recover, or how are we going to account for an outage at that supplier versus how are we going to deal with it internally. So it's just a whole different way of looking at it, and the outputs that are derived are significantly more valuable to the organization.
The payroll example you just mentioned was perfect, because I used to work as a business continuity person at a large payroll company many years ago. And we had the same, when I first got there, when we were first starting to really build the business continuity program, the same thing was starting to happen. What do we do when IT's down? Well, payroll is done here, and, all this. And people were starting to wonder, when IT is down. And we finally realized it, finally snapped, going, well, wait a minute. We have this vendor over here that does this for us. So is it really our issue if our IT goes down? And so we had that conversation, and we talked to a couple of our partners, like the bank. We talked to the bank and said, what would you do? And they said, well, we would just rerun your last payroll and you could fix the stuff afterwards. And we went, it's that easy? Really?
I don't know if you saw in the last day or so this issue that Ford Motor Company has, where one of their suppliers had a massive fire in their manufacturing facility, and Ford has basically shut down manufacturing of the F-150 pickup truck. They have 84 days of supply left before they run out of trucks. And that is, I believe, I may not be 100% correct, but I believe it's at least one of their highest profitability products, if not the highest. And it has nothing to do with their IT. It has nothing to do with their facilities, their manufacturing plants, their staff, their workforce, nothing. It all has to do with a supplier who can't provide a critical component, and it's the only supplier that Ford uses for this. So
I think the same thing occurred with
that probably wasn't caught during the assessment because it wasn't looked at as a process. It was looked at as, as an internal only focus.
I think the same thing occurred with, correct me if I'm wrong, with Toyota when the Fukushima earthquake occurred. Because I know for a fact the Toyota plant down the road from where I live ran into the same problem with Ford. Because I
Yep.
did hear that on the radio today. They were running out of parts, and the parts were coming from the other side of the world, and they were being impacted here and shutting down plants or cutting shifts back. So yeah, those things, with the old approach, I think you're completely correct. They're looking at it at the wrong level.
Yeah. So the process itself is similar, but the results are different because what we get is we get an assessment at the business process level, not the department level. We get an assessment of what's the impact to key performance indicators that the company relies upon, not just some generic, what would be the financial impact, what would be the operational impact. It ties it back to what's really important to that particular organization, and as I said, it's something that needs to be understood ahead of time so that the questions can be something that people can relate to, and the third thing is the issue of an ongoing process versus a point in time. It's important that when changes occur in the organization, maybe they're organizational changes, maybe it's an acquisition, maybe it's a divestiture, maybe it's a merger, maybe it's a new product line that's being developed. Do we do that business impact study at that time so that we're addressing the problem at the beginning, not at the end? We need to not find out 6 months in that we've developed a new product and now we can't make that product and we have no idea how we're going to do recovery for it because we didn't do it when we should have. We didn't do it at the beginning. We didn't do it when it was important to do it versus just doing it on a point in time basis.
Right. We were so happy to have this new product. We just ran down the road and forgot to see some of the signs along the way.
Yep, absolutely. So this process needs to be part of the development process for new products. It needs to be part of the acquisition of a new organization. It needs to be part of the divestiture. It needs to be part of an M&A process. I mean, this is a critical piece that gives insight into the impacts that will occur and allows you to have current, up-to-date plans that address the current organization, not the organization as it looked like 6 months ago.
Right. And on that note, we're going to take our second break. We're talking with John Jackson about the traditional BIA and has it run its course. We'll be right back.
If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.